So it's not a silly question at all. It's actually a good question. But the short answer is yes and no. So let's say that every boomer had like 8 kids. Every boomer couple had 8 kids. And then each of those kids each had 8 kids. Right? Okay, then the U.S. economy would be booming. Because what's an economy? It's just people. And there's only one way to expand an economy, and that's add people. That's it. And I'm going to explain this for people who are furiously typing with their thumbs right now to say, no, you can make things more efficient, etc. You can make everything in your business 100% efficient. In fact, you can make it so efficient that you can make it 101% efficient. You even know what the customer wants before they walk in the door of your establishment, and you hand it to them, like on a quantum level. It's like, you've gone ahead in time and given them their product and taken their money out of their wallet before they even know what happened, and they're there and gone in 5 seconds in your business. Okay, but do you have hundreds of people doing that every day? Because if it's only 2 or 3, you're probably not going to be in business very long unless you got one hell of a margin. So, yes, I mean, you expand an economy by having people. What's the one thing that Americans didn't do? They didn't have any people. And the reason they didn't was because back in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s, as a Gen Xer, I can tell you, I mean, we all saw it. All of the propaganda. Don't have any kids. It's bad for the environment. Don't have kids. Your life is over. War on teen pregnancy. Never get pregnant. Go be a boss babe. All this bullshit. That's what happened. And so when you understand that, there's just not as much demand on the back end of that because there's just not as many people. So that means that the Ponzi scheme that is the currency doesn't have enough demand to keep it going. So yes, they would be doing better if the Ponzi scheme were kept going with like everybody having 8 kids, which isn't really necessary actually. And I'm not dissing anybody who has 8 kids. I'm just pointing out, like, it's, like the reason people had lots of kids was because they needed a lot of help. Well, you don't really need as much help on the farm now, do you? So there's just a practical reality, and birth rates ebb and flow. Like not everybody wants 7 or 8, 9, 10 kids. Some people only want 2. And that's okay. So anyway, this has culminated in decreased demand. So now we move into phase 2. Phase 2 is the no part, in that like now they realize that the old news is Americans or Westerners in general, English speaking people in general. They're the old news now because they're not going to have a bunch of kids. So now they have to move on to the next one. They've exsanguinated everybody here, all the Americans. Now they have to move on to somebody else to attach to. Remember, these are parasites. I mean, vampires are real. They're just not an invention of Bram Stoker. It's like, I mean, but vampirism actually is a thing. It's where you're just exsanguinating people all the time. Look up L. Frank Baum. He wrote a book called The Wizard of Oz. It was made into a really famous movie that I'm sure everybody watching this has heard. But it wasn't ruby slippers, it was silver slippers. It was because silver, and that's where the whole idea of vampires are allergic to silver and so on. Like that's where it's all metaphor. It's all designed to get, to be able to tell a story without being overt about it. Because people who are overt about explaining this stuff, that's me. And I'm boring, right? I'm not going to sell millions and millions and millions of copies of a book by just explaining what the hell is going on in the world and just saying, yeah, I mean, this is all just basically math and statistics catching up with everybody. That's boring, right? It is. It's super boring. So, yeah, you have to look at it that way. So now they want to replace it. So they got to get rid of the old people, and which is the Americans, English-speaking world. The Europeans, they got to get rid of those people and bring in the new people. There's also something to be said for, keep in mind that they're just printing dollars from nothing. They don't really need to make any money. They can literally make money, right? They don't need to provide you with any kind of service or product that's better than anything out there. They can literally just print dollars and pay a bunch of people in these worthless dollars that are worthless to us. And becoming worth less and less and less, but they're worth something to the other people who don't really care. Like they don't, like, again, like I've said this before, many people that are coming to the U.S., speaking for the U.S., they don't really care about what Americans are going through. They're just here for the money. They don't really care that Americans are being exsanguinated, not to overuse that word, but I don't get to use it in a sentence very often. So they don't care that Americans are being, being sucked dry. They don't care about that. They're just here for the money because it's worth 10 to 20 times more in their country